We've already made a commitment to increasing police numbers, particularly police officers, to work in neighbourhood policing.
It's as shit as it ever was.
A teenage girl in handcuffs, Ricky Gervais seething, public outrage boiling over, while violent criminals, killers and predators roam unchallenged across Starmer's Britain. An entire unit of police officers was mobilised to drag away a schoolgirl for daring to purchase food after the so-called curfew without having reached the age of 18. Such a display is the height of cynicism and a sickening indictment of those in charge. As we peel back the layers of this absurd and deeply unjust episode, you'll begin to understand why Gervais sees it as proof of a brazen Starmer's two-tier legal system. The abrupt detention of a schoolchild over a fast food curfew has sent shockwaves across Britain.
Some things I'm more mellow about and some things I'm more angry about. Like, I never really cared about politics. I went through the phase at sort of, 15, 16, thinking I was Che Guevara. But then you think, there's no point. But I realise the thing that makes my blood boil is obviously animal cruelty and all injustice.
Ricky Gervais had tried to keep his distance from politics, but this incident became his boiling point. He has struck at one of Starmer's most uncomfortable truths: two-tier justice system and the sheer injustice it breeds. Starmer promised tougher street patrols and greater powers for neighbourhood police. Well, this is what we got. If improving public safety means sending a full squad of officers to violently wrestle a teenage girl inside a McDonald's, then the priorities of this government couldn't be clearer. It's a grim reminder that, under Starmer's watch, force is applied not where it's needed most, but where it plays easiest into control.
If you don't like that, if you don't like the changes that we've made, I say the door is open and you can leave.
Starmer seems blind to the everyday reality of ordinary people. He governs from a distance, insulated by privilege, never setting foot in the neighbourhoods where his policies cause the most harm. Figures like Gervais can see all too clearly that Starmer bends laws and rules to his own will, and it's regular citizens who are left to suffer the consequences. Afterward, Starmer sends the message that if anyone dislikes the way his new measures work, they are free to leave Britain. In other words, it's the victim who should disappear, not the one responsible. Starmer, as usual, offers no comment on the incident, not until the outrage reaches breaking point. Gervais pounced on that silence, accusing him of hiding behind the press while lives are being upended. He mocked the idea that leadership means waiting for disaster before saying a word. In his words, a real leader would stand up, face the music, and admit when the system has failed, not duck for cover until the headlines fade.
Pretend it never happened. That'd be tough. That'd be tough. If I could, no, I don't think I could do that. Even if I was absolutely scared, I couldn't pretend it never happened.
This girl had never been a political figure, but now she's at the centre of a national debate on whether the authorities are targeting the harmless while ignoring the dangerous. For freedom-minded voices like Gervais, the real question is this how taxpayer resources are being spent? In broad daylight, many major cities have streets where machete-wielding gangs of certain backgrounds operate openly. The same streets plagued by grooming rings and sexual predators. Yet under Starmer's idea of justice, it somehow makes more sense to send, as evening begins to fall, an entire police squad to arrest a schoolgirl in a McDonald's over a curfew rule. Some districts are either avoided entirely by patrols or deliberately left alone, simply to dodge headlines about migrant-linked crime spilling across the channel. Both of these realities, in Gervais' vision, perfectly capture the essence of Starmer's governing approach. What kind of absurdity is this? A young girl arrested, handcuffed, and hauled into a van against her will over a burger. When comedians are stepping up as serious political commentators, you know something is deeply wrong. The fact that we are even having this discussion should force everyone to reflect on the state of Starmer's Britain. It's a moment that blurs the line between parody and reality, and not in a way that anyone can laugh at.
It always comes back to that principle for me. All politics starts with that. Every discussion, offence, right and wrong, everything fundamental human rights. So I think I can, and there's so much misunderstanding that it's like you think that you can't make any quantum leaps when you talk about that, because there's such a fundamental misunderstanding.
Starmer's Britain is drifting further and further from the image of a once great first world democracy. Say what you will, but the policing apparatus under his leadership is massive. The real question is how it's being deployed. They can arrest someone like Tommy Robinson for repeatedly speaking out against crime, illegal migration, and Islamist extremism. Yet they're far less likely to venture into neighborhoods where gangs terrorize locals with machetes. Many officers openly admit those areas are no-go zones after dark. Others avoid them entirely to prevent sparking crime reports that might make their superiors look bad. But a schoolgirl in McDonald's, that's easy. Handcuff her, drag her into a van, and call it a day. Even if she did break some ridiculous curfew rule, what's wrong with calling her parents or relatives and resolving the matter like reasonable people? Why the need to twist her arms behind her back? No one benefits from that. A teenage girl could be left with lasting mental scars, not to mention bruises from the cuffs that she'll be mocked for at school. Taxpayers are footing the bill for many minutes of police time just to drive out, detain the child, transport her to the station, and hand her over to other officers, all instead of investigating real, dangerous crime. More and more people are beginning to notice the double standards at play in today's police force.
Double standards of policing here in the UK. It was okay for 10, 20, 30,000 Black Lives Matter protesters to gather and protest. I have no commentary about that right now. But how is it okay for them, but it's not okay for one little white lady? What is it the government are so afraid of? And to those boy police officers, I say, what you have on there, your little fluoro vest, that's just a costume. It's fancy dress. It doesn't make you an officer of the law. It certainly doesn't make you someone that I have any respect for. Seems to me like you spent too much of lockdown with your face in the fridge or possibly at the drive-thru at McDonald's. Time to get out and sort out your exercise routine and get yourself into some kind of shape before you start arresting elderly ladies for the crime of standing politely on a street corner. Come on, fat boys.
And while Starmer's two-tier system of justice rages on in full force through heavy-handed police arrests, another schoolgirl has now fallen victim to the madness of that same mentality. 12-year-old girl dared to wear the British flag on Culture Day at her school, only to be reprimanded by teachers and publicly removed in disgrace. The idea was that each student would share something about their own heritage and traditions. She had carefully prepared a speech celebrating classic British customs, the ritual of tea drinking, the politeness and courtesy British known for, obsession with the weather and the local cuisine. The reaction? She never got to say a single word because she was ejected from the event for inappropriate appearance. The inappropriate item in question? A British flag dress, in Britain. Unacceptable. This is the absurdity we're dealing with. Her father, outraged, pointed out the hypocrisy of a diversity day that embraces every culture except the majority one. If anything, it sent a clear message that certain identities are welcome, while others are to be quietly sidelined. In Starmer's Britain, being openly British is starting to feel like something to be ashamed of. If you happen to be born here, you're expected to keep your head down and conform to every passing cultural trend, but the damage was already done. A young girl humiliated simply for being proud of her own culture. It's the same pattern we keep seeing, institutions bending over backwards to appease every interest except their own citizens.
As a 12-year-old girl, Courtney was punished by her teachers after wearing a Union Jack dress to her school's Culture Day. Astonishingly, Courtney's father claimed his daughter was told that Culture Day was not for her.
Courtney went into school. She was taking part in a culture diversity day, which was held by the school. She got as far as the school gates, and I think the school stopped her and told her that she wasn't eligible to take part in the events that day. They took her to one side, put her more or less in isolation. They kept her in reception. She called me and I had to go and collect her from school.
And I can't find a word wrong with it. You were celebrating Britain, but you're also celebrating the diversity of it. You never got a chance to read that. How has all this experience made you feel?
Me not being allowed to read my speech, it's really upset me and it's embarrassed me as well because I've prepared it and I really wanted to share it to my school.
You know, Courtney, I've got a girl myself who's 11 and she puts so much heart and soul into reading things out at school. It means everything to them. To be denied that, Stuart, is a cruel blow to any child. But could I ask you about the broader topic here? There's a feeling that it is now becoming commonplace in Britain, especially in schools, to be ashamed to be British.
It's taken a flag down, somebody giving them some kind of abuse for a national flag, and people having, as well with culture days at school, not being able to take part. You know, it's not for British kids.
Yes, we have reached the point where, in Britain, being British has become something to be embarrassed about. Already in schools, the idea is being planted into children's minds that if you happen to be born here, you must inevitably reject that identity. Starmer's education system is doing everything it can to ensure the next generation follows only the approved party line. Does any of this sound familiar to you? If the Labour leadership knows it's difficult to reprogram those who remember Margaret Thatcher, they seem to believe it's far easier to start with the children. That's how every authoritarian regime operates, including Starmer's. Ricky Gervais is struck by the fact that if you dare to challenge this, you'll be branded far right, fired from your job at best, and if you're too loud, you'll end up behind bars. He points out that this culture of fear doesn't happen overnight. It's built brick by brick through small acts of suppression. Each incident, whether a schoolgirl in a McDonald's or another silenced for wearing her own flag, becomes another warning shot to the public. And yet, the more they try to shut people up, the more voices like Gervais refuse to back down.
Human rights. So I think I can, and there's so much misunderstanding that it's like you think that you can't be too, you can't make any quantum leaps when you talk about that, because there's such a fundamental misunderstanding about what free speech is with the general public. It should be taught in schools what free speech is. Comedy, free speech, and animal welfare. And I can go off on millions of tangents with animal welfare because that is complex. So I think the best thing, probably the first two, if I wanted to be funny as well. It's typical to be funny with animal.
This is not just about one arrest or one school event, it's about the direction the entire country is being pushed. When minor infractions by ordinary people are treated as major crimes while real criminals walk free, trust in the system collapses. Starmer's Britain is becoming a place where loyalty to the party matters more than loyalty to the people. Ricky Gervais has become a lightning rod for the public's frustration, giving voice to thoughts many are too afraid to say aloud. If this trend continues, the next generation will inherit a nation that barely resembles the free and confident Britain it once was. And unless more people speak out now, that change will be permanent.